Hi, my name is Dave Poland. I'd like to welcome you to Portland Film Beat. Tonight my guest is Edward Martin III. He is president of Hellbender Media. Edward, it's great to have you on board. How you doing?
Thank you for having me on board, Dave.
Yeah. Hey, let's get started right in. Where did you train?
I actually trained informally through a number of filmmakers I know, not through school. I worked with some Seattle filmmakers, filmmakers from Canada, and just basically getting started. I got started writing through comics, worked my way from comics, decided to try writing screenplay, and then from there I was like, well, I want to see it a certain way.
Okay, yeah, sure you do.
So then I just started hooking up with other filmmakers, like, how are you doing it? How did you do this? How did you do that? And then pretty soon I was like, okay, no, leave me alone, I can think this through, and I would start working on that.
So what first got you interested in making film? Was there anything that sent you over from comics into film? Just wanting to see your stuff actually more visually, linearly?
Well, and in fact, kind of in a way to hear it. I used to do a lot of audio work, a lot of making audio plays and things like that. And listening to them, I was like, yeah, that's really cool. In fact, the first short screenplay I wrote was all black. It was just an experiment. Can I do this all black? And then I started playing around with a video camera and seeing what I could add to that.
All right, great. How many films have you made?
So features. We're just wrapping up our second feature. We're just starting our third feature.
That Flesh of My Flesh?
Yes,
which is right behind us there. That's what we're promoting tonight. Yeah, good. We got to.
We're just wrapping Flesh of My Flesh. That's in post. It's getting the music mastered. So that's really going to be, we're hoping by Christmas. Then the next one we're starting up is Through the Night, which is a live action horror. And then previously I did an animated feature called The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, based on a novel from the turn of the century.
So you've actually done 15 short films as well.
About 15 short films and about 20 or 22 other short films through workshops, yeah.
Right, so yeah, we'll get to the workshops at the end, because you do actually offer these workshops. I think that's a great idea, a great thing.
It was a ton of fun.
Tell us the premise of Flesh of My Flesh.
The premise of Flesh of My Flesh is that it's kind of all about the zombies, sort of in a way. I wanted to, when I started off writing this, I wanted to write something where there wasn't an easy out, there wasn't a trick ending, where things just got harder and harder and harder, and it seemed more realistic. I had a historian help me out with some of the historical references. So we actually dug up historical references that...
Oh, so this film has got some history. It's just not zombies running around.
Yeah. And I had a medical advisor talk with me about how the medical parts of this work. How do the chemistry of human beings and digestion and so forth work, and why would creatures do this kind of thing? So I sort of deconstructed zombies and brought it back into something completely different, which isn't quite zombies, but it is basically my premise that all zombie films, all zombie stories, all come from these kind of creatures that have been around for centuries, that have been around for as long as humans have been.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. That's where you went into the history of it.
Yeah.
So what gave you that storyline? Did you just, have you got an imagination that just went there, or did something trick that?
I think I got tired of people tricking monsters.
Okay.
Because monsters are smart. I mean, well, you know, we're smart, right? We know how to walk. So
I think the best monsters are smart.
Yes. Yes, the best monsters are smart. The best monsters know how to do everything that they can do. And so I wanted to come up with something that was as smart as us, if not smarter, fast as us, if not faster, and strong as us, if not stronger.
Yeah, because that gives the protagonist they've more challenges. So we won't go into that yet. So anyway, when you're working with actors, and you've worked with some great actors, you know, we can get into that. But how do you work with actors? Do you let them do it, or do you just watch them and then help them along once you see what they're bringing to the table?
I generally start off by kind of seeing how they do it, how they read it, because a few times I've been surprised. I didn't know that could be read that way, but I like it.
Good for you.
And other times it's like, oh man, I need to explain this joke, because sometimes a joke is 2 or 3 beats along, and
so actually there is humor within. Good, that's great.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's humor in everything we do. You know, even people who are driving and having a terrible, terrible day driving are going to make jokes about it as they're driving.
We hope.
Yeah.
So, do you do the cinematography, or do you bring in cinematographers?
I brought a cinematographer in. His name's Ryan K. Johnson from Seattle International Films. I've known him for close to 15 years, and I met him actually before that. And he and I have made many movies together, and I actually consider us very lucky to have him.
Okay.
It was the first time I ever met a cinematographer who was ready before anyone else on set. I would watch him get out of the car at times for shoots. He lives in Seattle, and he came down and actually lived with us for a month while we were filming.
Okay.
And he would get out of the car, throw the tripod down, throw the camera on it, check the lights, and say, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm shooting. Why is no one here? Where's our actors? Come on!"
Wow,
so
good.
that
He's
kept
ready
us
to go.
going all the
Well,
time.
I've read that one of the best things you do as a director is get the first shot right away, because that dictates how the rest of the day will go. If you can get that first shot and get good, bad, or indifferent, get the first shot, and then it makes the rest of the day move forward fast, quicker, and get things done. Because sometimes you get stalled on a film set, and you don't want that to happen. So anyway. When working with the cinematographer then, you allow him to set up, and do you work with him on the lights, get everything together? Do you tell him if you want the camera to move? And work with them on that? Because there's a lot of different things that the cinematographers can bring to it. But as someone who's also done directing, I like the way you shot that, but I want to do one of mine my way too. And then let's see the editor, what works, because there's the film we write, the film we shoot, and then the film that comes together in the edit. And a lot of times the edit, the editor can go, this is the best solution, and you got to work with them that out.
And that's how it's worked. A lot of times with Ryan and I working together, well, he'll make suggestions because he's been making movies for close to 30 years. And I said, why don't we shoot it like this? And I was like, okay, that looks good. Can we also shoot a variation like this? Go, yeah, that'll be fine.
Well, we're going to see some trailers in a second. The images are pretty nice. What kind of camera did he use?
For Flesh of My Flesh, we use Canon XL1s. We borrowed from a friend.
Really? Okay. Yeah, the images are really great. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is we're going to take a minute right now. There's 3 trailers. They're only a minute long each. And we're going to cut to the first trailer, and it's about Herbert. And we'll be right back.
Every culture has its myths of the dead coming back to life.
Zombies.
Haitian. But there's evidence of waves of cannibalism that go all the way back to the Neanderthals. Evidence of people rising from the grave, not knowing, not caring about their loved ones, just eating. I think it's part of the species. But you always feel different. And then one day you died, and that flood of chemicals to your brain finally released it.
Is he speaking?
Probably. It's a hard habit to break.
Okay, so that was great. It
like
doesn't really kind of go into the whole, it gets into the dynamic of what you were saying, the historical part of it, but it doesn't get into the blood and guts, and that probably happens later. Who is the actor?
That actor is Ron Richardson. He was a very good friend of mine from many, many years ago. I was surprised. I hadn't quite realized that Ron acted, and we were looking for someone to take that role. And Ron said, well, can I audition? And I said, okay, sure.
Well, he was good in that role.
Oh, he was great.
He didn't overdo it or anything. That's what I liked. Is he played it to the.
And he played the character as the same kind of little weaselly guy that he is, because this character appears also in some short stories. And Ron played him. He says, do you want a weaselly guy like in the short stories? Do you want like this kind of character as he's played in his other movies? Or do you want me to just kind of make it up as I go? I was like, well, let's try the weaselly guy. And he played the little weasel all through the whole movie very nicely.
Right. He doesn't end up being devoured or anything in the end.
He has a very bad day at the end of the
movie. Yeah, well, that's a good way of putting it. He has a bad day.
But he's a control freak. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
He has a very bad day, but he's a control freak right to the end.
All right, great. We're going to watch the second trailer, and this one is about a medical examiner, and we'll be right back.
The subject is male, about 25 years old. Supposed to have a shotgun wound to the chest, but my preliminary exam showed no such wound. I took a couple of samples before the procedure. I don't know why. Something just didn't seem right. Under the microscope, they showed some really unusual properties. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Not human, not animal, not anything. I mean, I know the guy's dead, okay? I get that. But his cells, they almost seem to be... Hello? Who's there?
Okay, who is the actress who played the medical examiner?
That is a writer buddy of mine named Sue Pethick. And,
Say that again.
Sorry, Susan Pethick.
Okay.
And normally she's a writer, but I asked her, you know, I really like how you're doing, how you act, and I'm also working with her on a separate project, and it's like, would you be willing to be a medical examiner? She goes, sure, let me see the script. And I handed her the script, and she's like, this is great, let's do it. So we did that kind of on the fly almost.
Right, okay.
But
So a lot of that was improv then?
No, there was a script. She followed the script, but we were willing to, you know, a lot of the stuff we were able to improv.
Okay. Well, that actually leads to another question then.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to your scripts, do you hold actors to the word, or do you let them let the verbiage, like narration, roll off their tongue in a way, not to change it, but to make it their own, as to say?
I have no objection if it sounds better.
Okay.
And a lot of times it does. I mean, sometimes I'll be writing something or I'll be reading something out loud, and when I'm doing edits, like, oh, it sounds great, I know how the cadence goes. But the actor is a completely different cadence, sounds completely different, and they say, can I try it this way? Or maybe they're stumbling over a word. And we do like, well, let's take out this paragraph. Just do this line and then that line.
Right.
It's like, I would rather see a good performance than someone stumbling and trying to crack their way over a crazy line.
Like we said, there's the film we write,
Yes.
the film we shoot, and then the one that's edited. So, does she have a bad day at the end of the film?
What you see is the beginning of her bad day.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, she did a great job too. I mean, I like the fact of the subtlety of the actors. They didn't overplay it or anything. And actually, we're going to get into the third trailer now. And this is actually a kind of, gives you, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back after watching this one.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
We're never getting out of here, are we?
All right, I have to ask, why are they naked and locked up?
Well, let's see, how much to reveal? So the setup there is that this is...
Well, they're praying too.
Oh yeah. There's certain times in your life when even if you can't remember the words, you're desperately trying to do anything you can.
There's no atheist in a foxhole type thing.
Yes,
That's what you're
yes.
meaning? Okay.
And this scene was kind of improv from a larger scene we were building. And we thought, well, how about we try this? And we asked a few people, how well do you know the Lord's Prayer? And I had one version of it memorized from Harold and Maude, oddly enough. And then they had some other versions of it. And it turns out that we're kind of trying to remember. There's a bunch of us sitting around trying to remember the Lord's Prayer, different variations of the Lord's Prayer. And we thought, wait a minute, wait. We need to get this in a cage. We need to get people doing this in a cage, having the exact same kind of attempt.
Oh, right,
that we
because
were.
they're in a desperate situation and they're wanting to do the Lord's Prayer. And they're needing God's help at that point in time. He's the only one.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
they're in the foxhole.
And they can't remember all the words very well, and they're trying to help each other out. And we ended up just like, I don't know. And this is what I love about working with a cinematographer that you've worked with a lot. I was able to kind of gesture to Ryan, get this. And so we just did this kind of, and he just kind of came on over and just panned right across while they were practicing this scene.
Okay. Is there a reason why they're naked? Can you tell us that, or is that?
I can tell you. Do
we have to watch? You're going to tell us? Go ahead. No, I'm going to let you tell us a little bit.
They're naked for the same reason that cows are naked when you're in a processing factory.
Oh, all right, creeping me out here. Completely processing factory.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, flesh in my flesh. We're getting it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a going back to like a Soylent Green thing.
A bit of one, yeah.
If anybody remembers Soylent Green, that'll creep you out. Edward G. Robinson actually was in that, wasn't he? Wasn't it Edward G.? That goes to show you how back that one.
Well, of course, everyone remembers Charlton Heston.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a
Charlton
time.
Heston, yeah. And what are a few things you learned making Flesh of My Flesh?
Oh gosh, a few. Holy crumb. Well, plan everything out as best you can.
Did you have a shot list going in every day then? Okay.
Yeah, and
that helps a lot because when it doesn't go right, you've got a plan B.
We have shot list. Have your scenes ready. Plan your resources. You mentioned earlier that the best thing to do right away in your first shot is get a shot. Just get that first shot right away. So whenever we plan to shoot for a particular day, make sure that first shot was the easiest one to get. And you're right. The motivation, the morale helped a lot because while we're getting that shot ready, people are building up this set and building up that set and building up these other things. And we could go into a room many times. We could go right into a room, shoot in this corner right away while people are building in this corner. As soon as we're done with there, shoot in this corner whilst people are building in this corner and breaking down in this corner. Then turn around and shoot in this corner while people are setting up in that corner and breaking down this one.
Okay, so here's my question then. Did you shoot this all in Oregon or right in Portland, Tigard?
All here in Portland, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, sure. Yeah, I think we shot it all.
So did you have a big warehouse where you could do that kind of thing in?
We shot it in a lot of different locations, including locations that no longer exist. Because
it looked like some of those medical examiner was actually a doctor's office.
It was a chiropractor's office.
All right, okay.
Most of Flesh of My Flesh was filmed at Damish, which is a former mental hospital down in Wilsonville, which is no longer anymore. But I have a secret, I have to tell you. Damish has been removed. It's been replaced by a housing development. But don't tell anyone, they never moved the bodies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But, so we filmed.
Well, I'm not going down there now.
Yeah. But it was it's a mental institution. They used, I think they used part of it in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and some other places.
Yeah, that's right. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was shot in Portland.
Yeah, well, so we shot a ton of stuff there and then all over in little locations in different places.
Did you find these locations yourself or did you have a location
We had a
manager?
person. We had a fellow who would hunt down locations for us. And he had his list, and every time he'd chopped off a location, figured it out, we said, okay, we can schedule stuff there now.
Right, great. So briefly, we'll move on. Briefly describe the feel, I'm going to start again. Briefly describe the appeal you think your film will have, Flesh of Flesh will have to audiences.
Oh, well, my hope is that it'll appeal to people on sort of who like low-budget horror.
Okay.
Horror
but it's not
is
your
fun.
standard zombie type film, though.
No, we didn't
Not
want
if
to
you're
just
using processing.
Yes. Processing stuff, we've got human processing, we've got helicopter fights, we've got
So
missile
are the
launches.
zombies intelligent then?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And in
okay.
some cases smarter than we are.
Wow, that's good. Because most of the time zombies are just like, walking around.
Yeah.
Zombies, but these are intelligent zombies. I like that idea.
Yeah, well,
It's a different flavor on it. It can make you,
that's
it
what
can
we're
creep you out a
hoping
little
for,
more.
yeah.
So, what are the strengths? What are your strengths as a filmmaker?
Lack of taste.
That's actually a great answer. That's actually a great answer.
I don't let taste get in the way of having a good time and so let's film that. Well, what would we do with that? That's a really horrible thing to film. Let's film it anyway.
Let's see what the audience says.
Let's see what the audience says.
Right, because you never know.
One thing I like, and I want to keep working on this, is my timing, my sense of timing. I did stand-up for a few years, and I really enjoyed that.
Stand-up comedian?
Yeah, stand-up comedy. And the big thing about that I really tried hard to get was timing. And that's something, maybe it comes out more in editing, but timing jokes, timing gags, timing everything just a certain way.
Okay, right, okay. So what are your weaknesses as a filmmaker, do you think? That's a hard one to...
Oh, no, it's an easy one.
Oh, really good. I'm glad that you were willing to be vulnerable and answer that kind of thing, because a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, well, I never have enough money. I never have enough time. I'm cutting corners all over like crazy, and each time I cut a corner, it's like, oh, this is going to look terrible. Oh, my God. Massive amounts of insecurity, which I don't know a single filmmaker. I mean, filmmakers either are insecure or they're liars, so about being insecure. But I could be wrong. And then just inexperience. I need to do more. I mean, I've only
doesn't it seem like the more you do, the more you feel like you need to do and you want to do?
Well, yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
The more I write, the more I film, the more I want, the more I think afterwards I'm all done. It's like, oh, I could have done that so much better. I'll do it better in the next one. But
you just touched on something. So you write, you direct. So you produce, you edit as well, I take it? And you did sound design, you talked about that earlier.
Yes, I love doing sound design. But it drives me bananas in some ways too, because it's very tedious. I mean, how many gunshots can you hear before it's like, oh, okay, I've had 4 variations of the same gun.
It can be tedious. And sound is extremely important in film. A lot of people don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
How does Flesh in My Flesh, distinguish itself from the other works like it? I mean, we've already discussed the fact that the zombies are intelligent, that they're processing. What other things could distinguish it from other things? I
think the thing that stands out, that stands out oddly in my mind about Flesh in My Flesh, is that on one hand, it's a very low budget. And it is. I can fess up to that. But on the other hand, we had these tremendous attempts to try to create a whole universe. So we're trying to make a world where zombies are heavily armed, and where if they need to climb a wall, rather than try to figure out how to climb the wall, they just jam their fingers right into the cinder blocks and drag themselves up the wall.
Oh yeah, wow.
And so we had this fantastic stuff, and rather than saying, well, I guess we can't do that, we're going to have to rein that in a little bit, we said, well, we only have so much money, so how are we going to do that?
Okay.
So we tried to have this as big a budget project as we can with a tiny little budget.
So does Hellbender Media shoot commercials locally or music videos or anything else like that, or do you just work primarily on your own films?
All narrative stuff.
Is it? Okay, all narrative.
Narrative films, and then we do workshops.
We're going to talk, okay. What other products and services do you provide? You provide workshops, right?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? Look right at the camera, right there. I want you to tell people about your workshops, because maybe you get them interested, and you can look. You can look up Edward Martin at Hellbender Media, and there's hellbendermedia.com. Look them up. Go ahead. Tell them.
Our workshops, once or twice a year, we'll host these workshops, and it's usually a 2 or 3 day thing, and it's part of a much larger event, often science fiction conventions, horror conventions, and so forth.
Comic-Con type thing?
Comic-Con type things, yeah, exactly. Where we walk people through the process from soup to nuts of making a movie. We'll sit them down, and it can be people who've never made a movie before, and that's fine. We want people to understand how to do this. So it's okay.
So you get a lot, do you get a various age range that comes in?
Yes.
From high schoolers,
middle
kids,
schoolers? Little kids.
All the way up to older guys my age.
One fella has been in our movies almost since he was born. His parents were often in our workshop movies. And so it's been some 20 years.
Really?
And now...
Well, you've been doing this for a while then.
Yeah, since 1999. It's about 15 years, since 1999. But yeah, we walk people through everything they need to know about making a movie by making a movie with them that weekend.
Okay. Wow.
And they're free. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Say that again.
They're free. You have to come to the conventions. Our next one is going to be at a convention in Seattle on Easter weekend. The convention's called NorwestCon. And in fact, not only are we doing the full filmmaking stretch there, we're also adding new classes and parts to it, including directing and lighting and sound and breaking down scripts, as well as editing and filming and writing and so forth. So it's becoming quite
it sounds great. It sounds really good. Yeah. So what is your favorite part of filmmaking?
The flash of insight that hits your brain in the middle of the night and you wake up, I was like, I gotta write that, that's fantastic, this is great, and then they're gonna turn into werewolves, and then they're gonna turn into some kind of other creature made of smoke, and then you're just writing this crazy stuff. And
So you do get up in the middle of the night, you write your ideas down. That's good.
Yes.
There's been times where it's like, oh, I'll remember that in the morning, and then I wake up and
you
I
never
go,
do.
What, I did it again.
Yes.
And it's an epiphany of something really awesome that you should get out of bed for. I respect the fact that you do that, so.
You know, that's why you have smartphones too. It's like, oh, I can do this, I can do this. You're kind of. I used to write stuff. I used to keep a notebook by my bed, and then after a while, I realized I can't read that. I'm writing in sleep language. I don't even know what sleep language is. I sat and I tried to figure out what is it that I wrote, and I wrote one thing in this way, and I must have woke up the other night and wrote 2 other lines in the other direction. I could not read any of it. It was a complete incoherent mess.
Wow. So, what's your least favorite part of filmmaking?
Editing.
Editing, really?
Yeah.
You like sound design,
I like sound.
But you don't like doing the editing.
No, I mean, so far, post-production kind of drives me a little bonkers.
Okay, right.
It's frustrating, it's slow, it's tedious.
Do you have somebody doing the music background?
Oh,
for
yeah.
this?
In fact, it was a local gal. Well, she's not local now. She moved to Portugal. But her name is Kaioka Grace O'Manion. She did the soundtrack for our first fantasy movie, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. She used to run a gallery here in town called Gallery 8 and moved down to San Francisco. And she's done many, many albums as Land of the Blind and under her own thing. And they are fantastic folks. And they have done our soundtracks for several movies.
Wow, that's great. Who is your favorite director? A-list director.
Well, oh, A-list. Well, okay. I don't know if he's A-list or not, but well, okay. I love Danny Boyle because everything Danny Boyle does is interesting and different. He is not stuck in any one thing.
Okay, right.
I watched 28 Days Later. I watched Sunshine, which I love the original story. I read it when I was a kid, and Millions, which I adore it. Don Coscarelli. One could debate whether or not he's A-list, but I love the fact that Don Coscarelli will make any movie he wants.
Okay, isn't that great? You're kind of making your own films like that, any ones you want, though.
Gosh, that'd be, yeah.
You're trying to
I'm
get there.
hoping. Yeah, anyone who can make Phantasm and then John dies at the end and Bubba Hotep, you win. I'm doing my best, but you've got this.
So what is your favorite film?
Well,
There's probably a few, but can you just name one or two?
oh, it phases all over, but right now I'm completely digging John dies at the end.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I watched that the first time and I had to watch it the next morning. Like, I got it the next morning, I got to watch this again. And so I watched it again. And then over a couple of days, I watched it 3 or 4 times, just getting all these little bits. It's like, I love it. I felt like I was like a little tiny kid watching the same movie over and over, because every time I watched it, it's like, wow, there's something else really cool.
Learn something new. Well, isn't that great?
Yeah.
If you could be assistant director for a director, who would that be?
Coscarelli. Huh? Don Coscarelli,
Okay.
Danny Boyle, and of course, well, Nolan. I mean, after I've watched Interstellar, it's like, okay, anything I need to do to get on that set, I'll be happy to do that.
Is that right? Okay, great.
Sure, yeah.
What A-list actor and or actress would you like to work with or direct in one of your films?
Whoever shows up first.
You know what? That's great.
But I would love to be a part of a film, say with like someone like Lance Henriksen, of whom I've been a fan since bygone era.
Right. Okay. You've done a lot of independent, low-budget filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
You have workshops to help people. Can you talk to the camera if you want?
Okay.
Give some advice to some people out there who are trying to get a film made on what to do to get a film made. Some quick advice.
Some quick advice. If you want to make your film, I almost feel like an inspirational speaker.
Good. No, we want
then
you to
find
be.
people who you're working with, find people who are doing what you're doing, hang out with them, and just do that. Don't give up. Don't worry about whether or not it's even necessarily good. It may not be good at all, but you're just going to keep rolling and keep making it and doing your best and make more and have a fun time. And if you decide, well, it's not really for me, that's okay too. Right. Motorcycling is fun.
That's good. Great. Anyway, we're running out of time here at Portland Film Beat. I want to thank Edward Martin for being here and talking about Hellbender Media. And actually, look it up. Those workshops are great. I'm telling you. I want to thank Christo, who works here at Tualatin Valley Community Media. I want to thank my director, Ellery Nelson. He does a great job setting this all up. And I have to thank my wife, who's the producer, Carol Poland. Until next time on Portland Film Beat, shoot for the silver screen.